All right.
A lot of stuff.
It's like, you don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna talk. No, but I'll probably. I'm hoping for next day. Yeah. Yeah. Like,
Today is Knott's birthday, and as she has started a new tradition of bringing cake for her birthday, we owe her a song. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Okay. I said, if I'm gonna be here at a council meeting on my birthday, there will be cake. So I think I went a little bit of. There will be a lot. Yeah. Are we there yet?
Not quite.
Okay, let me know. I know.
I went to Norma. And the best thing I saw actually was the Boston. It was so good. Yeah. It was a riot. That's what it was. Michael Hall.
Yeah. It's good. Yeah, a walker, a walking woman with a black Labradoodle.
Steve, be quiet.
Dog was a big pain in the ass.
Steve, boy.
Mute yourself. Did you forget anyone?
So encouraged.
Yeah, then I would.
We call the meeting to order. Debbie, we have roll call, please.
Councilmember Brockmeyer.
Here.
Councilmember Berger.
Present.
Councilmember Holdren.
Present.
Councilmember Marino. Here. Councilmember Knott.
Here.
Vice Mayor Oswald.
Here.
And Mayor Fox.
We have a quorum.
Yes, ma'am. Quorum is
Okay.
established.
Let's do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God. So. The next on the agenda is the meeting, the minutes from the February meeting. Any questions, changes? I sent a bunch to.
That all the changes have been updated.
Nothing else, anyone do we,
I have something. On page 5 of the minutes, it said that Ms. McGuire requested a written answer to her question. Have we followed that?
The mayor told me that that wasn't what he was gonna do.
any additions or changes to the minutes? No. I need a motion to accept the minutes.
Make a motion to accept.
I said, yours and Caldwell. Okay.
You have to know.
You've got. Okay. All right. Public hearing.
We're gonna vote.
We got
We have
the
the
motion
motion.
and the second, but we didn't act on the motion.
Yes. All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Keep me on. That's it. It's all. Okay, all right, so next on the agenda is a public hearing. For the homestay at 51 North Street. I open a public hearing to discuss the matter of a proposed homestay at 51 North Street. Any public comment? No public comment? All's well with that? All's okay. Any council comments? Looks like it's within the parameters. All's right, okay, then we need a motion to accept.
On page 9.
Your microphone, if you want to send it over, yeah.
On page 9 or 17.
Right, I see what it says.
Is there a local phone number?
That is a local phone number. It's his cell.
Oh, it says name and telephone number for local emergency contact. It's 973-22.
Right.
That's just in finished writing, or the rest of the numbers.
Oh,
say
that's up there.
What's up top?
Okay.
Yeah.
And I noticed the application was dated in October. It's just been delayed.
Because
Yeah.
there was a glitch in the ad.
Well, they had to wait. If you remember, we had to
Ordinance.
we had to change the ordinance,
Oh, yes.
and that delayed it. And then last month there was an error in the newspaper, so these folks have been waiting pretty patiently.
Yes, they have. Part or all of this area falls within the limits of the incorporated town. Is all of this in Newton County?
Yes.
That's all.
Okay. We have a motion? Did you?
I'll make a motion that we approve this special use permit.
So I hear a second.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Mr. Berger seconds. And all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All for Cindy. Oh, yes, Cindy, sorry. Okay, the next on the agenda is the Hill Studios presentation.
Other way.
Other way, and Hancock Residence Group is first.
Sorry. Oh, and then Hancock Residence Group first, sorry. Okay.
Is this a good
Mr.
spot?
Feldheisen, Dr. Feldheisen.
Yeah, it's,
You want to?
Microphone.
It doesn't work.
One more, maybe. There you go.
Oh, perfect. We can't take notes.
Yeah.
You can just write, everything.
there's no microphone.
Yeah.
There's Greg.
Yeah, well,
Well, start up, I would have to be expected to be here giving this presentation. Ever.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I can't hear you here. Can you hear clearly? Just throw it up. Put it in this chair. Sorry. Is there any way to take one of these or put it over there or something?
The only thing I can suggest is he could put that microphone, stand in the horseshoe and pull the microphone around to the front.
yeah, those are all wired underneath.
Something, just something.
Yeah.
Well, you're the one who said that. I don't know that he's home.
Oh, no, if you could stay there.
Steve, you really need to mute.
Yeah. Keep going.
That's all right.
That's
Got it? All right, so I'm with the Nancock Residence Group. It's a little grassroots organization of not a whole lot of members to it, honestly, but very motivated to provide information to the town and to the town council. So my task this evening is to inform the council and the citizens as to the present status of what's going on, what we have discovered with the Performance Pavilion. So I want to start off by just saying that even though this has been one heck of a contentious situation, we have benefited by gaining a lot of friendships with people that we probably wouldn't have met any other way, honestly. So I'll say thank you just to start things off. And I think it's very important to stress the fact that our group is part of this community, and we want our school to survive and thrive. We're not opposed to it. Honestly, heartfelt thanks to the Friends of Nancock School for trying to make this work. And I'm hopeful that it will work in some fashion. We just need to figure that out. Now, in all fairness, we've been working with the Friends of Anacog School for some time. And at this point, we still have not, over the past several weeks, heard anything as far as, I'll call it a settlement, but I think by the next town council meeting, hopefully we'll have that all together. So I used in an earlier presentation an ANCOG comprehensive plan because in theory, everybody on the town council eagerly endorsed that. And one of the most important things about it is the simple fact that within that, it mentioned a number of times, is how much we all like the nice, quiet neighborhood and friendly atmosphere. So I'm hoping that that will continue and be encouraged. Now, that said, what I was going to talk about when I asked for this time a month or so ago has changed completely in the past week. So I have a lot of information to display and to talk about, and it's disturbing. But I think it may ultimately lead to hopefully some good resolutions again with the whole project. So as we all know, the school is a very old facility, fraught with problems, and many of which we don't really know or understand. And it is my hope that when we get to the end of this evening's presentation, we'll begin the dialogue about how we're going to get that school back in usable shape for all our kids and all the people in the next generations to come. Now, where I think the whole problem began is simply this. I don't think anybody has an intention to fail when they get into a project. But I do think that if you don't make a good plan and earnestly look at all the details of it, that you'll have a good chance of coming out on the other end happy. And then, of course, there are unexpected failures. So we've been talking about what's the roof like, what's the heating system like, are the windows okay, are the gutters okay? And all of those things are, you know, hundreds of thousands, small millions worth of needed repairs. And so I've asked the basic question, is there a backup plan? If, you know, the big hurricane comes through or the heavy snowfall, is the roof going to stand up? Is there a contingency funding in case such a thing as that were to happen? So last Wednesday, our group met with the town manager and the mayor, and I asked that question. And the honest answer is no, we don't have a backup plan to help that school survive if the roof were to go down. So that, I think, in itself is a very significant thing. Now, the positives of the school, well, obviously, it's an extremely valuable asset to the town once it's in good shape. The grounds are beautiful. The community largely supports it, and it's done a lot of good things for the neighborhood already. So, you know, again, I think it's been a success in that regard. The aspirations are great. We want to fix the infrastructure. We want it to continue to grow and to thrive and be a nidus of bringing new things to the community. All of us would agree with that. Now, when it comes to the outdoor pavilion, I think the choice would be, do we go big or do we go small? And I think that has to be based upon the experience and the number of people that are willing to participate in it. So right now, with a multi-purpose pavilion, as I see it, and I don't think there's going to be a lot of disagreement with this, there are some shortcomings. We're lacking the funding. The experience of performance management is probably zero. We have had a failure to explore the cost options, again, associated with going big or small. There's been a failure to engage more volunteers because the FOS group of people are a small group as well, and they have worked their tails off to try and make this work. And it's difficult, and I could understand where they would be frustrated and having a hard time with it. But the way the whole pavilion was approached, obviously, the garnering of broad community support was not gained from the very beginning, and that's been acknowledged. Now, in our conversations with management here at the town last week, this was the assessment. And I don't think anybody here would particularly disagree with that. That perspective, I think, would hold true. And surprisingly, after presenting the financials, this was the summary statement from the mayor. no one looking at the financials that have been presented really thought that this was going to be a booming success and provide for all the repairs that are needed at the school. So the finances, I can understand where somebody sitting on a board and somebody rides in as the white knight with thousands of dollars and says, I've got this great idea to develop a revenue stream. Just jump on the wagon and we'll go for it. I understand that. But that does not eliminate the need to do good planning, to acquire good information from professional sources. And I stress by expert sources, education and experience combined create that expert. And again, going back to who's working at the pavilion, who's providing the management for all of these wonderful entertainment venues, I'm not seeing it. Now, the advantage is, this is looking at, and you may want to refer to your handouts here.
We'll have to do that later.
Yeah, all right. So anyway, the bottom line is, these are proposals and we've been told to ignore them, but this is the only information we've gotten from the Friends of Hancock School about what the plan really is. So in here, the first year are a lot of free events, which is what has been advertised and proposed. And I don't think anybody in our group or anybody in the neighborhood would be upset about saying, go for it. That's fine. And then progressively in year 2, we're adding a little more. Again, I don't see a big issue with that. We get to year 3 and year 4, and the numbers of people summating at the bottom are beginning to go up quite a lot, as are the number of paid events. And so again, that's great, but I would suggest going slow. And then year 5, that's when everything is like, oh my God, are you serious? You're going to have events every weekend or twice a weekend. Where are the resources, volunteer-wise, or the police coverage, or the cleaning up coverage? Again, this is a big and broad avenue to pursue. And I applaud the zeal that goes into that. But, you know, honestly, guys, you got to look at the reality of this. So the good news is we've been able to not hire, but we had a volunteer from Virginia Beach who has 15 plus years of experience in concert management. And we took the numbers, the initial numbers that were offered to us by FOS, and asked her to provide an Excel spreadsheet with her experience, open, candid, no hidden agendas. Just if you had this proposed project, what do you think the revenues are going to be? And so in your handout are part of those Excel spreadsheets. And I apologize again for clarity. And if you look, we met with the mayor and Fletcher, and Matt, and they looked at those numbers as well. And that's what led to the mayor's comment about, well, maybe it wasn't going to work anyway. But in the highlighted area right here is what was expected, and is what the actual numbers are going to be. The lower numbers are the summations off of the budgets as planned by the FOS.
Excuse me, can you say what they are? Can you say?
Well, I'll get that real quickly. You'll see what I have to say. So I summated that also. This is a list of all the things that you have to consider when you do a concert of any kind. Who's got the ice? Who's got the garbage cans? Who's got the porta potties? Who's going to introduce the person when they come on stage? Who's going to be working the sound? Who's going to be working the lights? Who's got the gates? Who's returning the money for the tickets when the rain comes? All of those issues are mentioned in this, which is the reality of trying to run a big organization. Imagine doing that every weekend through the summer. And we're not even talking about how do we get the bands? Are they coming up and down the coast? You know, if they're big performers. I mean, the resources needed to put this stuff on are huge. And this person works the pavilions at Virginia Beach. So they know the big guys. So again, they go from big to small. They talk to people like we're being talked to tonight. And they say, well, are you still interested? After you've seen all this stuff, do you really think you want to do it? Because the fact is, in years 1, 2, 3, it's not likely that you're going to make any money at it. The reality on those initial numbers from the school are likely 2 times what the real, what I'm trying to say is the cost of these things are 2 times greater than what are proposed, and the profit coming out of them is probably 2 times less. So again, the knowledge of the details in organizing these events, I don't think is present. And this is things, again, just to pause and consider, and that doesn't get into all the other things I've just mentioned. But you need to have that experience. You need to have the insurance for what happens when the thunderstorm comes up and everybody has to run for the hills and I want my money back. We never got to see anybody. I mean, that is significant and big stuff. So my proposal is real simple. Start small. You don't have to go the big time. And as you can prove the fact that you can manage one event and you want to go bigger, well, fine, go ahead and go bigger. But this is not the time to be saying we're going to spend $500,000 and we're going to have the big concerts by the year after next. I mean, check what you're thinking here. So again, my friend comes back. And this is done by a local artist, Mo Spector, who's a good friend of ours, a great guy. So my question is this, is the bird ever going to fly? Well, I'm having my doubts. And the reason it goes to is permitting problems. And I'm going to go to this and hold your hats, because in my opinion, this is going to be a make or breaker for the whole project. So this goes back to March 7th of last year. In the fine yellow markings down there, it basically says, I think we got a problem with the location of the pavilion. It could be in the RPA, meaning that it's a protected area in the tidal zone. And it was mentioned, kind of go back and look at it and figure out if it's in a good spot. All right. At the March 28th meeting, our town manager basically said, I've looked at it all. I think we've got it covered. And the bottom line is no action is needed by town council. Now that's nice. If that's the summation and it's been moved out of the tidal flood areas and all of that stuff, I'd say great. Part of this is permitting. So our town, it's interesting how permitting works, but our town is responsible for the Chesapeake Bay Protection Act within the town limits. Accomack County is not. So they have the permits, they can say, yeah, you can do the building, here it is, I approved your plans. And, go ahead. But the town has to approve where that site is located. So this is the application, and in this is a bunch of linear stuff. So show me your measurements, how far are you from the property line, from the creek, from the street, whatever it might be. And that's all supposed to be public information applied for as part of getting that site located. Up here is part of the management, the engineering, the plan, and this is within that same comprehensive plan. So again, going back to 2021, in that plan, it says the site cannot be bigger than 2,500 square feet if it's in a tidal zone and if it's an accessory building, which this is. So the next step goes to, there's the map again in that comprehensive plan. And if you look down here, you're going to see the tidal areas that are affected as determined by the government, big government, federal tidal maps, the state of Virginia, all of this stuff to protect the bay. This,
I'm gonna turn it on right now. Yeah.
this is what was used to gain permission from the county of Accomack for the site of where that pavilion is located. And in this area is where the initial proposal was. It was moved, so everybody's trying to do the right thing, but that is not the footprint of the foundation. Never was. So I was, kind of like, well, that's really peculiar. Let me try and figure out who's zooming who's responsible for all of these procedures. So I went up to the Accomack permitting people. And I went in there and I said, I've got a question about this or that. And out of the back room comes one of the people in permitting and they say, whoa, we're not answering any more questions. We want all of those documents for you to FOIA. We don't want to answer your questions. And I was kind of like, what do you mean? So this is in the past couple of weeks. So I'm a persistent little bugger. So I let that settle for a little bit. I came back and I went back to the people again and I said, you know, who is the person that approved that site plan? And it's a lady named Beth Nunley. So she looks at the land and this general layout. And again, in her document, you'll see the size of the disturbed area is more than 2,500 square feet. So immediately that says you're not supposed to be encroaching upon those tidal wetlands. Okay, I say, do you have any other things that can give me information about that? I walk back to the permitting office. I say, what's up? They say, FOIA us. Weren't you here 2 weeks ago asking that question? I said, yes, I was, but you know, I want some answers. Well, I can't give it to you. And I was like, again, like, oh, this is going nowhere. So going back a little bit in time. Well, I'll get to that in a second. So these are the permits that were actually issued by the county of Accomack. And you'll see Mr. Rick King's name in there. And you'll see his personal address. So this particular permit, applicant is not a licensed contractor. All right. And in there is his home address saying he's a contractor. Okay, fine. If he's building something on his property, that's fine. But the problem is it's on the town's property. It's on the school's property. So that is not truly an honest submission for a permit. The next thing is, again, additionally in the permit, we have signatures down at the bottom, Mr. Rick King, that's Matt. We have the size of the pavilion that's projected under 2,000 feet, and that's probably true. That's the footprint, but that doesn't cover the land around it that gets disturbed, and that's what the state is interested in more than anything. And the other thing is, it's priced out at $200,000. And the other thing, is it residential or commercial? Not checked. Well, that's interesting. So to me, it says the permit probably isn't valid. Now, this is the survey that was done. And I'll show you here a couple of the particulars about this. But this here is the actual footprint of the foundation for the pavilion. This here is the RPA zone, meaning that nothing can be in that zone, period. The flood zone is this dotted line back here. And it's a special flood zone and all that kind of stuff for which you're required to have elevation studies done, and you're required to have flood management issues. I mean, there are a lot of things in the permitting process that were not done. So the other significant thing is this. This is the official stamp of the surveyor. There are a couple of things about that that I find interesting. And of them, not only, of course, it's obvious, where is the foundation? And that's trouble. The second thing is the date of this, which is December 22nd. Now, unfortunately, we've had to FOIA the town to get that survey. And when I got that survey, I was again like, there are two things that really bother me. One is obviously the location of the foundation. The other is the date of that stamp. And the other is that I didn't get that until the 8th of March. So, which happened to coincide when the FOS, March 7th, was supposed to submit a grant through the Land Trust Organization to get money to fund the school for the band of land around the creek. But, so that's 3 months. Somebody somewhere knew that stuff was not right. And the Friends of the Nancock School and our organization has been working their butts off to try and get this stuff squared away. And somebody knew about it. All this debate, all the tears flowing, all the late nights of worrying about, are we going to be able to do this, boils down to a fact that is really simple. In researching this survey, I was very skeptical of my own skills. I mean, honestly, I don't know diddly about this stuff. So I went to somebody who's on the planning commission in Virginia Beach. I said, what do you make of this survey? Well, it says the foundation is within the tidal zones. That doesn't work. Something's got to happen. I said, well, that's interesting. And then I went up to the Accomack County people again. And I walked in, they invited me because they're seeing my signature on their sign-in page and they're going, this guy's turned into a real pain. So we're gonna phone him up and find out what his problem is. So they phoned me up and I just like, well, what the heck? So I go up there and I walk in and I say to the guy, you know, I don't know anything about this. I'm looking for a mentor. Tell me what's going on. And I pulled out the survey and I said, could you tell me what this means? And he looks at it and he's like, oh my goodness. And I said, well, I'm looking for experts, people that really, you know, they know what works or doesn't work. And he said, well, I can tell you with 95% certainty that that survey is accurate. Now, I'm a scientist-based guy. 95%, that says to me, it's probably true. Okay, so I'm going like, well, you know, now we got a real problem here. No doubt about it. I showed him the permits. He looked at those and he was like, I've got a problem here. He has a problem because his staff is doing stuff that he doesn't approve of. And he's a new guy. He doesn't know the ropes in Accomack County. But the bottom line on this is it's going to become a little more clear on how the permitting process works. The guy is a former Navy SEAL type guy. He checks all the boxes. And he said, I'm going to make this whole process linear. If you want to do something, check the box. You got that one, check the next one. And then it's all clear and straight and simple. And that's what should have been done at the very beginning before any of this was done. I don't want the school to fail, but we've had discussions about, well, what happens if the pavilion isn't a success? What happens if the roof falls in on the school? And everybody's like, well, it's not our problem. We'll just declare bankruptcy. And the school says, well, it's not our problem because they're leasing it from us and they can do anything they want. Well, talk about a circle game. I mean, who's going to stand up here and just say, what's the plan? For God's sake, just say it. Now, this is my grandson. Which brings me to another very emotional point. And everybody at the December 14th meeting that the FOS put on would stand up and go, you people are just complaining and you don't want the pavilion and you just have a bad attitude. And, you know, our kids love coming to the park and playing and all that. And, you know, so I've been thinking about that. And I've been thinking it's been 15 years now and, you know, the school is still in pretty poor shape. How many of us are going to be here 15 years from now when he's old enough to say, geez, I got to pay the roof just fell in. What am I going to do? So I beg all of you to start considering the problem that exists there. And it's a town problem, town problem, town problem. I'd say it's time for the whole group here to get together, talk about redoing the lease. Fletcher mentioned, and I would support the idea of somehow funding repairs to the school and take the load off of the Friends of Ancock School to some degree. And then if they want to do the pavilion and it's not working quite as well as they'd hoped, they're not going to go down the tubes over it. So, you know, let's dial it back a little bit. And that's it. It's over. Yeah, questions.
This is Cindy. I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Or just turn on.
Questions?
Go ahead, Cindy.
Should I go ahead or not?
Go ahead.
Okay. I did have a question about the information presented from the volunteer in Virginia Beach. I know that she's an excellent professional and I certainly respect her opinion. However, do you have any information that relates to small towns and not large metropolitan areas regarding how small towns would approach this?
All right, so as I understood the question, Cindy, it's like does she have experience managing performances in small towns and not just the big ones like Virginia Beach? And the
Sort of,
answer-
I really wondered if you had that information
She
from
has.
her or anyone.
Broad level of experience, and I think would probably be happy to come out and talk to people about how to do those venues in small towns. But her experience has been when she brings the facts of what's required to do these kinds of performances, lots of times everybody just kind of folds up and says, maybe there's a different plan we ought to come up with. And but I have no negative feelings about her willingness to come forward and talk to people about it. Which would be great.
I'm just saying she may not have relevant experience to our particular situation.
Absolutely.
For instance, the Central Accomack Little League had an event at the ballpark last weekend. I'm sure many people know about it and perhaps some went, which was basically run by volunteers. I don't know if they rented the ballpark or if it was given to them gratis. I have no idea, but that's more typical of the type of performance event that I've seen here in the years I've lived here.
Well, all I can say to that is that's great. If it's that small, I don't think anybody would have any objections to it. And I don't think her skills would be required at that level. So that would be my answer to that.
Thank you.
Before we proceed, that if you want to speak, please let me acknowledge you to speak. So that we are in order here and that you make control and keep your notes right. Okay. Hayden?
Yeah, I have two questions. First, who are you, sir?
I'm sorry, I'm Greg Feldhausen. I live at 5 Ames Street here in town.
Okay, I'll identify myself. I'm Hayden Rochester. I'm president of the Friends of the Nancock School. And I do have one other question, and that is, did you share any of the information that you received from Virginia Beach or any of these other things that were presented in this slide presentation with the Friends of the Nancock School prior to this public meeting?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Any other public comment? Council? Sarah?
I'm trying to think where to start. My first question is, may we have a copy of the PowerPoint?
Sure, I've got slides after the end that I should delete or I'll copy it. I'm not an IT guy, so I'll figure out how to do that. Absolutely. Yeah.
And there are a lot of things, I wasn't able to make notes as you were going through. There are a lot of details that I would question. Including, I don't dispute the date on the survey, but I also recall it was like pulling teeth to get it actually turned in. So I believe that rather than casting aspersions on where the survey sat at the surveyor's office.
All right.
For much of the time that you're questioning.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I will apologize if that is in fact the case.
And on the marking of the survey, it's my understanding that there is serious question about the high tide mark that he used, that it was checked multiple times previously and since, and that there's an effort underway to go behind and get another surveyor probably to reconfirm that portion.
Right. Let me address that if I may. So again, I've had pretty potent authorities, experts look at the survey. And I made that same comment. I said, it kind of looks to me like somebody just took a pencil and out like this. And so that's what upset me as well. When I talked to the permitting guy in Accomack, he said Google Maps, period, and so did the other expert, not sufficient, not adequate to make your claim. They will not accept Google Maps in the future, and, you know, that's the future, it's not now. And the certification on there, that's like a doctor's license. For the surveyor to stamp that and say, this is what I found, is very significant. I mean, it's like his license is on the line. So you're gonna have a time saying to him, you know, is this valid or not? I mean, if it were me as a doctor, I'd probably say, you know, you better check your stuff twice before you're telling me I didn't do something right. Yeah, and that's fine. I agree with you. And I had my doubts too. Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
stand by the concerns that have been brought to me. And then just the observation that although the school does not have the funds in hand to replace the roof, there is insurance. So it's not that a calamitous event would necessarily be the
Yeah.
total killer that your presentation portrayed.
Yeah, and that's true, but I've had insurance companies come around my house and say, you know, that tree is getting awful close and it's been there 200 years. And, you know, yeah, so I know what you're saying, and I don't mean to be dramatic. But it is what it is, as I say.
Just to be on that point, Matt, does the current insurance cover such an event?
Yes,
And if there was a boiler event, would that also be covered?
we have,
To what extent, I guess?
we have boiler mechanical insurance that's specifically for that type of an incident, yeah.
Okay, so in both cases, there is insurance to cover those calamities. Okay. Sarah, you finished?
Of what I can sum up right now.
Okay, fine.
And I'll be happy to answer questions anything.
I have a comment.
Excuse me, Joy, I'm just coming to you next.
Thank you. This information that we've seen tonight is all new to us, so I'm processing.
It was new to me 2 days ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so what I'm taking away is, are you saying that the pavilion is built in the 50-foot upper part of the pavilion,
Yes.
of the existing foundation?
That's what the survey tells me, yes.
So does that mean the foundation that's already been laid is in there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay,
And the people I've talked to, when it comes to mitigation, you can't go backwards and say, I'm gonna rezone this, I'm gonna make an appeal for, because it's an accessory structure, it's not your home. So that makes it an issue. And they're like, well, the only way to fix this is take out at
dig
least
it
part
out,
of the
put it back.
foundation.
We're going forward.
Yeah, and so right away, I'm looking at the financial impact of that. And it's like, that's not so good.
Was there another, oh,
Go ahead.
were you finished?
So the survey from Shore Surveyors is saying one thing, and the town is saying we're gonna get another survey.
Right.
What happens at that point?
I don't know. Because we're getting into the state of Virginia's wetlands law for the Chesapeake Bay Act. And they don't look kindly on, you know, what's this about? And I haven't gone to the state, gone to the county. And it is not my intention to have anything happen to that particular thing, but there is a problem.
Well, all right, was there another comment?
Yeah, my name is Susan McGuire and I was.
Susan, could you please stand up? No, thank you.
Susan McGuire, live on Joint Street in Hancock, and I'm sorry I'm having difficulty hearing, who is the authority on where the flood zone is?
As I understand it, it goes to the federal flood zone maps. I don't know honestly. But
That's the final authority,
that's my understanding. of
and
it.
is it my understanding that the pavilion is in the flood zone?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll use a personal example. So when I purchased my home here in town, I was told I was in the flood zone. I was like, oh, well, geez, come on, I'm up 10 feet by my thought. So I had a survey done. And just like the pavilion, the corner of a back porch, a wooden deck happens to be in that zone. If you want to have, you want a mortgage on your house, you've got to pay for flood insurance. It is that way.
But you're saying all of the footprint of the pavilion right now is in the zone,
It's in the flood zone.
in the flood zone.
Corner of it is in the RPA, which is another
issue.
Mr. Speck, what state agency oversees the Chesapeake Bay Act?
DEQ has a department.
So could they give us some input here?
And I believe they will be.
Now, is anyone I mean, you're questioning all of this right now, and there's seems to be obvious permitting violations going on. Who puts the brakes on?
Well, in theory, a stop work authorization or order could be in effect, and that should come, as I understand the Acme permitting people from the town. Because it's their property, they've been made aware of the issue. Now construction on that pavilion should cease.
But we have
And
no
it
authority,
has.
but we
Yeah,
have no
that's
authority to the
understandable.
permits. We have no authority to the permits
That's
that have
correct.
been issued.
That's correct, yes. And that's Accomack County's problem. And the guy who's now the new permit supervisor is, like losing here. And saying, I've got to reestablish all of this stuff. He doesn't want to go backwards and fire his employees that authorize this, and I understand that. And that's history. It's sad, but it is what it is. So I make the progress.
Right, do you have anything? No. Anyone else have any comments? Please stand up.
Yeah, Casey Greer, and I think I don't want to lose the other big point that Greg has made. That's the most important one, is that the planning was back-asswards from the beginning. So, and we can't forget that it was well-intentioned, but it has been done completely back-asswards from the first step. And we don't want to lose that in thinking about, it turns out there's permit violations, there's all this other stuff, but it goes back even farther than that. And I think it can become an object lesson for us as we think about how we're going to improve and develop and make this a better town. In a way, it's a sad lesson about how not to do something. And I'm hoping that what we take from it is that, okay, let's figure out a better way when these big projects come along so that we don't wind up with a mess like this. It's turning out to be a mess from the top to the bottom. And a lot of well-intentioned people have put a lot of energy and a lot of emotional energy into this project. And it's back-asswards. It's been back-asswards.
And you can't fix that. You can
learn
you can
something.
go- I'm about to say, you can go forward and you can learn,
Right.
but you cannot go back and fix past that.
And I would add that another wonderful thing about this community is the assets that we had with the retired people. And the people in this town are highly experienced in diverse problem solving. And all you need to do is open it up and say, public meeting, we're gonna have an issue here. What do you guys think? What can you bring to the table and help us all do this in a organized and expert fashion?
And that's what I've been asking from the beginning.
Yeah.
Has been to say, we need the entire town involved in this because it will affect the entire town.
Yeah.
And this is not a committee, this is not a council issue, this is an entire town issue.
Correct. Thank you.
There's a question?
Yes,
Okay, please stand.
Patsy Feldhausen. Sarah, picking up on what you stated and what you, I think, Matt, nodded in agreement. So the town council solution is to get a different survey. Is that what you were saying?
Can I speak to that?
Yeah, because that's
The town is absolutely not getting another survey. This was the town survey that did this. We had 3 different agencies measure it before the construction was done. When the survey came in, it was different than those three agencies. Let me finish, please. What my recommendation was to the school to have them go get an independent survey, and at that point, we can verify it. If it agrees with Shore, then our response is vastly different.
I just know that Shoreline Survey is meticulous and considered highly respected. But you referenced 3 other surveys that were done.
Not surveys, ma'am. What I said was we measured it for the footprint. We didn't have a survey when this construction began.
Right. I mean,
Okay.
but where are those 3 other?
It's me.
No.
It's the school and it's the county. We all measured from the mean high tide to where that was staked out. And that's where we measured, and we were all in excess of 100 feet. That's why we're going back, and we just want Shore to make sure that they agree with their numbers, and then the school can support it. But if we only have the survey that we have right now, we must use the information that's on that survey.
Correct. Are there documents of your measurements then?
As far as when we all
When you
walked
worked
out
with
to
the
the
school?
field,
Yeah.
no.
And does that matter? Because the only one that matters is the official,
There is,
the survey by the.
well, that's what we're saying is that if 3 agencies measured it and we all agreed that the footprint was beyond the 100-foot RPA. And then after the construction was in place, we had a survey done for different purposes. That survey had information that we didn't have before, and that's why we're stopping and saying, okay, hold on.
What was the difference of the information that?
The corner of the back of the foundation is inside the RPA according to the survey. Where it was staked before.
Corner, I mean, is a corner this big or is a corner this big?
It doesn't matter.
I think you're right, it doesn't matter.
It's a
No.
corner.
I think it's about 2 feet though.
I think it might be a little bit more than 2 feet, but it's in that. But what I'm getting at is, you're right,
Smaller
it
than
doesn't
the cake.
matter. And we got the information after all the permits were issued, so now we have this new information and we're going to act on that new information.
In what way?
That's why we're asking for
Adjusting.
that's why we're asking for an independent survey again, to make sure if it agrees with the 3 agencies that already did it, then Mike could have made a mistake. As much as his professional
Who's mine?
stamp is on it,
The service. Okay.
the surveyor. So that's all we're doing is we're verifying the measurements that were already in place. And then once we are comfortable that they're accurate, then we'll respond appropriately.
Okay.
That's all there is to it.
Okay. The residents of the town paid for the first survey. But who's paying for the second survey?
Like I said, I've said to the school that they need to, if they want to refute the survey that was put out there, they have to pay for it.
Thank you. And the stop work order, is that official or is that?
That's your decision to make at this point. I mean, what my recommendation would be to hit the pause button until we get that second survey, if they choose to do it. If they choose not to do it, then we'll have to follow up based on the information that we have.
Mrs. Housing, you still have the floor.
I just, for my own clarity, the 3, I think the agencies that you used were.
The county for the ground disturbance permit. The contractor, the school, who did their own when they staked it out.
The contractor would be Mr. King.
It would be, yeah, Rick and FOS, and then the third would be me, the town.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sarah, did you have a comment?
Yes.
I'll bring back to you in a second.
Regardless of whether there is a formal stop order, there is no stop order, but as a council appointed member of the board of FOS, I can say, and it has been said here multiple times, that work has halted until there is a resolution of the issues. So if the town wants to issue a stop work order, then that's certainly the town's prerogative. But the absence of that is not going to mean that work will resume immediately either.
Okay.
I hear what you're
Excuse me,
saying.
1 second, please.
My comment isn't unrelated to this particular issue. It's related to another part of the presentation.
So can I
Okay,
come in
can
on
we,
Sarah's thing?
hold it, hold that.
I hear what you're saying,
Joy
and
Marino.
thank you. And, you know, there is a level of trust there, that if the school says work will stop, then we know work will stop, but I really think council needs to be, you know, on record as saying a stop work order based upon this survey. Would you agree, Mr.?
I would.
Yes. So should we have a vote? I
Is
make a
that,
motion?
is that something that the council would do? I'm not sure the procedure.
You would just order me to do it.
Okay,
But the council has to to vote to say that's what it wants you to do.
I would suggest that, yes.
I would suggest that as well. You were, Ms. Marino,
yes,
you were making
I make a motion that we execute a stop work order until we have more information based on facts of it.
to issue a stop work order. Now, excuse me, before, just a point of. Do you actually issue the stop work order, or does that have to go through another agency to do that?
No, I would issue it to the owner. To let them know that they need to cease until we release it.
Okay.
So,
Owner being the town?
yes, which is a little awkward.
So,
No, you're not.
Right?
I want to know what the process is in releasing a stop order. Stop work order.
say again,
What's,
you want to do
if
it
we're talking about issuing a stop order, what's the process of releasing a stop order?
The same.
the same thing, to sit here and say, do the same thing, that we have the information and we say, okay, to go ahead. Right? Yes, okay. So
Or you put,
we have,
or you put qualifications on it.
we have a motion on the floor.
But there's no second.
Do I have a
I did
second?
not hear a second.
Do I did, there wasn't one. Did you second?
I did not.
Okay,
Is there a second?
I second it.
And the chair?
I am.
Yeah,
Yes,
she's-
I
she's
am,
voting.
I am
She's-
still voting member. I second that we should issue a stop work. Until we resolve, and that's your motion, correct? Take a vote, please. Mr. Berger,
Until you resolve.
until there's until it's resolved to the point, the satisfaction that it should go forward based on the violations that exist.
Would you read the motion, Debbie?
Make a motion to execute a stop work order until, I haven't gotten that far, until the issues are resolved. The survey issues are resolved.
Well, until the permitting issues are resolved, I would say. Is that fair? Okay, and I second the motion, and the motion is on the floor. Mr. Berger, how do you say? No. Ms. Marino?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
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 It does not carry.
Oh, hang on, you've got Cindy, that's up.
Oh, Cindy
No,
does not carry. Okay, so there. Work could possibly continue. Regardless to how legal it is. Okay? That's interesting. That's very interesting. Okay, next on the agenda, are we finished with this?
I want to make one of the. can I
Oh,
make
I'm
one other
sorry,
comment?
yes,
Just regarding the presentation, there was a reference that Rick King was stating that he owned the school. I don't know how these applications are filled out properly, but on article number 9, he's claiming that he owns his own house,
Correct.
that he's applying from, not that he owns the school on the land.
Yes, but my understanding of the permitting process is you can act as your own contractor on your own property.
but not.
But it's not his property, it's actual contractor.
I just wanted to make that he's not actually stating on this that he
I don't
owns
know,
the
I
school.
don't think you presented it in that way either. I think you were just questioning whether you can, but. They do the work based on the fact that it's not your own property and not be a.
That's
licensed
what the
contractor.
comment, that's what the comment on the page was written in to say.
Licensed contractor.
Sarah, we're depending on you,
Okay.
as you have stated, there will be a software permit. So we're depending on you to keep us informed. I know you would.
All right, thank you, Dr. Van Huzen.
Thank you very much.
It's a very informative presentation.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda.
One minute, we're gonna switch out.
All right, showing the projector.
Let me say while they're switching stuff out, if anybody who came in didn't get birthday cake, please come get birthday cake. Mine.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me.
Yeah, you got it.
And we're working already.
Yeah, how about it? I'm amazed too.
Can't believe it. So,
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah.
Thank you.
all right.
Oh, we didn't introduce you yet, so I would rather do.
She would like to introduce you real quick. There you go.
Okay, in the daylight, thank you.
Please introduce yourself. This is Hill Studios presentation. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. My name is David Hill. I'm a landscape architect. I'm president of Hill Studio. We're in Roanoke, Virginia. And we've been invited to come introduce ourselves tonight. The town of Anacostia has requested that we assist in several issues that are going on currently. One is in helping to coordinate a lighting system for town, a wayfinding signage system.
Excuse me, please, could you use this because we're.
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
I'm sorry, we don't have the system.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so.
You're back to us, it's fine.
Okay, and I don't know how I'm gonna reach my computer from here, but.
You got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe if you could just advance by click the next one, you know. Yeah, so.
Thank you.
Okay.
Great.
Oh, thank you. Well, have my teammate there. Oh, the clicker. Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, so we'll be working over the next 4 or 5 months with Nat, and he's gonna ask other citizens to join us. In fact, we'll have some invitations in this slideshow tonight to help us with some of the design issues for lighting, wayfinding signage, and also for better parking opportunities in the downtown. So I thought, in fact, Matt invited me to come tonight and just to introduce myself. And that one, okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. And there we go. Let's see this one. Oh, there we go, yeah. Thank you. And so there we go. Thank you. And so this is my office. I work for a dozen very talented design professionals in Roanoke. We are architects, city planners, architectural historians, and landscape architects. And one of the most fun things that we do is to sort of get you thinking about some of the design issues for your downtown. Is to sort of act as if your own town has a personality. Who is your town? Also, we look at things like, we call it the center of gravity. Where's the center of gravity of Onancock? And is it in the right place? And then what are the unique resources of Onancock? And the good news is I've been coming here for quite a while. We worked on a downtown plan maybe 20 years ago, believe it or not. And I've continued to come here and stay here when we've been working on places on the Eastern Shore. So I thought I'd bring you a few case studies tonight to explore these 3 issues, just in other towns that are similar size and sort of similar levels of interest and creativity. So the first one, Meet My Town. First one we'll look at is, well, the first thing that I'll introduce you to is a couple of books that are really interesting about this very topic. One is John Hawkins, The Creative Economy, and the second was written about that. Richard Florida you might have read this as a popular book. It's called The Rise of the Creative Class. And later, Richard Sawyer wrote another book called Who's Your City, which kind of uses the same kind of conversation I'm going about tonight. But the idea with these books was that if you really look for the 21st century citizen who is going to occupy many of Virginia's small towns and even be sort of an urban pioneer in some of our cities, three big ideas. One is that this group believes in authenticity. Don't Disney World our town. We want the real deal. And so if you're going to do anything in your town, it's got to be authentic. The second thing is that this type of person in places like this really appreciates unique place-based assets. I heard from the last presentation that so many of you moved here, retired here, and it's probably because a lot of these incredible assets, they're here. And the third sort of idea with this group is to make your worst place your best place. Don't continue to invest a fortune in something that's pretty good. You'll find the worst places in town, make them your best place. So I'm going to show you a few examples of towns that have done this kind of stuff. The first one is a little city about 6,000 population in the western part of Virginia. It's called Galax. And their city has completely revitalized themselves from being about empty to being very vital through the arts. Galax had a number of empty gravel parking areas downtown, which are old building sites. And when we work with it is to take each of these and give it its own purpose. For example, the one on the left that you see in the foreground is with the green posts and the roofs. That's their farmers market. It's also a parking lot for about 200 cars. But it helped to make it a farmers market, gave it a purpose, and it helped to really create that streetscape. And another place where they had a building that was burned down, we were able to effectively kind of maneuver the walls to create a place where they could have outdoor concerts and dances. And so there's a stage there, they call it the Newman Street stage. They block the street and have parties. And you don't realize that all the rest of the time it's a parking lot. Galax also had a very unique situation. Right adjacent to the city was the New River Trail, which was a very important biking trail, thousands and thousands of visitors. They took the opportunity to take one of their main sidewalks in Main Street and pull that trail right down through the middle of town. And along with that, a number of grants helped to pay for things like a lot of interpretive signage. Seems like something like this might be kind of fun for an Hancock that sort of talks about your past. Right now, if you go into Mallards, there are all kinds of pictures, etc., about your past. So great kind of fun to have that on the street. And then, and this is an example of kind of putting that with different site furniture, etc. And Galax, one of the things that they're really interested in is old time music. And so this was a way to use their ugliest alleys for a multi-stage kind of a bluegrass festival event that they like to go every year back behind the buildings. Another town that has been similar to that in using music for their downtown revitalization is Floyd. I will distinguish Floyd from Galax. Floyd is 473 citizens. It's a tiny little town, and they're along the Crooked Road. And one thing I'll show you, the main intersection in Floyd. You know, you have a east-west and a north-south Main Street. In a county seat kind of town, you know, your focus is usually right around the courthouse and a lot of expensive banks and things right there. You really can spend a lot of money in a place like that and not notice it. But if you look just a little bit away, you can see a lot of underutilized gravel parking lots, grassy spots, and then even an abandoned grocery store. So the idea with Floyd became, how do you make those spaces a lot more vital? These are workshop sketches done, and we're going to do a workshop here in Hancock. This is the kind of sketches that we do with the public, kind of giving us some direction. One thing that Floyd wanted more than anything was some public restrooms, because it was just something that they really needed, and so they became part of the work. So here's a place, an old gravel mess and an abandoned building. It's kind of take your worst place and make it your best place. Make that some public parking, and when you do that, you know, take that spot and make it public parking that treats the stormwater in an exemplary way. And there happens to be a lighting company in Floyd. They got so excited about this that they actually invented a new type of light for Floyd this is the kind of thing we'll be studying for in Hancock. This is a special kind of light they made for their streets, which kind of really has mountains on it. So part of the deal with Floyd also, you might know their country store, it's pretty famous, and they have people there every Friday night for a big party in the street. And this was the place where they put the restroom so that, you know, the street party, there's a place to go to the restroom, which is kind of handy. And there are a number of, we placed in Floyd a number of these sort of small walls, because what happens is that inside the country store, you can only get about 175 people, but there are 500 people there. They all bring their instruments, and some of the best music is when these musicians get together and jam in the street, and that's free. So that's kind of fun. And so this is kind of what's made Floyd kind of famous, is this Friday night jamboree. They also have a lot of fun dancing in the country store when you can finally get in. The building official let you in. Halifax is another small town there in central Southside Virginia, and right in the middle of a big farming district. And one of the things that Halifax wanted to emphasize was its access to the river here. This is a parking lot idea next to the river for fishermen. And some of the guys in the office said, well, you know, all the kids who come fishing these days, they look for things on Google Maps. You need to make it look like a fish from outer space. That way they'll know it's a fish tank. You know, it's like, you're nuts. Nobody's gonna ever do that. But then again, here it is, just 1 year. The dorsal fin needs to grow a little bit better grass, but I think we're on the way here. But what's fun about it is when you get down to ground level, it really doesn't matter if it looks good from outer space, but it's really kind of a beautiful parking lot with grass and everything that's right there next to the river. So Halifax asked us also to really help them with some custom signage, and they're known for being a tobacco town. So the little gold finial you see at the top of a lot of their signs is the tobacco leaves. Here's some of their earlier signage, and then one of the things that was interesting in Halifax, I'll share this story. There, people were really concerned they didn't have any parking, and this circle is about a 5-minute walk from the courthouse. So we're just getting finished some big courthouse renovations. The thing is, they had a ton of parking. It's just nobody knew where it was. So it's a matter of sort of identifying all the parking and then making it fun to get from the parking to the courthouse. So so we identified where it was and suggested, well, you know, if we would just make it a fun walk in these streets and in these alleys, this could be quite a nice thing. So this became, you know, the parking plan for Halifax didn't build a single parking space. It just turned it into a much more pleasant place to get from the existing parking into the downtown. And part of that was, in fact, coming up with so much parking that they could look at doing some sort of entertaining things like building, we call it parklets, these tiny little things in a parking space or two where they could have umbrellas and restaurants that serve outside in good weather. Halifax has a ton of parking back behind these buildings. It's just no fun to go through these scary alleys to get there. So the idea was to, you know, kind of transform that walking experience to something that was pleasant. So some of these might be lessons for us here. And then finally, there's the whole palette of signs, which has just been implemented. And they started by putting the jumbo sign up on the water tank, which is kind of fun. So any lost pilots can now find Halifax. But they've also started to put them down on the street. Then one final one I'll show you is Vinton. Vinton is in Roanoke Valley. It's we call it Roanoke Valley's town. There are a bunch of cities. There's one town, and it's Vinton. They have an extraordinary farmers market. And over the years, the farmers market has been a real draw, and they've added a tiny little band shell back there. And when my folks were working on this, again, I'm always surprised at how old I am. It was this humongous V that was on the conference table on there. So what the heck is that? Well, it's David, it's a selfie V. Everybody's gonna get their picture taken with us. Like, no, they're not. Again, and then here's the, you know, the magazine that you can see Vinton with the IN there. It's gonna let everybody get their selfie taken with it. So I can learn. But so anyway, part of this is, you know, taking these sort of an old florist shop that's at the top of that drawing that's empty, turning it into a new library, and it has an enormous parking lot. It's just behind the signage and stuff, so it's kind of hidden. But from that parking lot, you can look to just about everything in the downtown. Benton also has going around identifying places that were great big buildings, but had very underused parking. And then Benton worked with the parking lot owner, or the building owner in this case, to really make a beautiful parking lot as long as people could use it. Public could use it. It's been a tremendous win-win for them. So much that it's freed up some of these other areas along the street to be this little parklets like we saw proposed in Halifax. The idea of the park was you take out a parking space or two, you move it, depending on what the merchant wants nearby. And then after it gets implemented, you can see in this case in front of the bakery that had absolutely no space, and they have about 25 seats outside in exchange for one parking space. So it works for some of those, others wouldn't want it, but it's at least an idea. So the work products of our work will be a lighting plan, a signage plan, and a parking plan. And the fourth piece is strategic recommendations, which is Matt had asked for, and it really doesn't have much of an agenda from my perspective at the moment, but I believe it's, after working here for 3 or 4 months, what would we suggest is other ideas. And so tonight is our kickoff, and I believe tomorrow I'll be walking around with Matt and also a couple other folks just to kind of introduce me to Onancock. We'll do draft studies in April and May. And May 17th and May 18th, we'll have a design workshop. That's when we bring these talented designers here and we find a place, an open place, maybe even this room if it's possible, where we would work just drawing and sketching for 2 days. And we'd invite as many of you as would like to come by and advise us, tell us you like it, tell us you really don't like that. We got a lot of those here. I don't like that. So that's fine. We'll draw something else. So that's why we bring the group here. And then we do a series of recommendations, which we bring back to you. I believe June 15th or so is, I believe, another council meeting right in that time. So we bring those back to council. And then we do a first batch of signage as a bid package in June and July, and the first batch of lights as a bid package also in June and July. So that's just a little introduction of how we work, and I really look forward to the opportunity to work with you here in Onancock. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Matt, I don't know, do I ask for questions or?
Well, I would first like to ask the council if they have any questions directly for David. Mr. Berger.
No.
Yes.
Ms. Moreno?
Will you be able to suggest funding sources for us?
Yes, ma'am.
We have an excellent financial manager, and I'm sure you have vast experience.
Well, thanks for asking. I really, what I would love to do is not only to come up with these ideas, but try to help you find a source for some of these. So that's one of the things that I'm definitely committed to do.
And is this project, this town plan encompass the business district only?
I believe it's all of town.
All of town.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And as I'm sure you heard, we have an issue in town. Is there, would you be able to address the impact of the pavilion on our community based upon the information you heard of the number of people coming and so on?
Oh, the number of people. Well, I'm only 45 minutes in the knowing much about the pavilion. So, but I'd be happy to in any way that wouldn't make things, stressful for anybody. I'm here for you. So, if I can help, I'll certainly have suggestions.
Okay.
I'm gonna hold, Cindy, you have questions for David?
Yes, I did have one question. I'd just like to understand the points at which the public will have input to the planning. And I've understood that it's best for them to have something to react to, so that, rather than just getting a whole bunch of ideas that maybe don't go together. And,
Yes,
but I just want to be clear about that because I know that the public is very interested in having input.
Thank you very much. And that reminds me that there's a little bit more detail about that. When we come to the workshop, so we'll have you know, half dozen ideas already sketched out or photos of other places and said, you like this, this, this. So, and I found that there are two ways to do a workshop. If we come to the workshop with nothing, people are pretty darn frustrated. It's easier for me to come in with some ideas and have you say, that's a good one, or have you thought about this? It's easier to bring some material for you to react to, and it's nowhere near complete. It's just some early ideas. And one suggestion that was brought up by the mayor who visited with me, but he's not here tonight, was that is there a way to launch this so that there can be more of a even more open forum than a workshop, if you can believe it. So what my staff is looking into is this program is called what is it thing called? It's a whiteboard program, and it's a Stormboard it's called, and you can get it free for a month. And so we'll work around 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after. We can start to launch some of these ideas. If you want to get on Stormboard and comment, you're welcome to do it. Everybody's going to look like a Post-it note, you know, and you can say, well, that's a nice light picture to do, but if you've seen this one used in, you know, wherever it is, you put your photo up there and people can react to the reaction. It's really fun. And then at the end, we can copy it down. That'll be a record of the conversation that happened in Hancock about that particular month of time. So I had that slide up that had our schedule. I believe it was the workshop was it April, I believe.
May 17 and 18.
Okay, they said, so maybe about the 1st of May, we'll launch that. So that is being started pretty much the month of May would be ideal for that Stormboard to be up, and people are welcome to do it. I've used it once before, had great results. You do have to sign in, you have to give your name and all that stuff. And some people don't like to participate with that, you know, I understand that. But it is free, and if you don't want to participate, that's fine. Still come to the workshop and talk to us. That's why we're here. We'll also, at the workshop, we have a signage expert, a parking expert, a lighting expert. And that way, you know, you got one of each. And you can work with them, and we may even have small groups that would walk around with these different experts. And so if you're interested in that kind of participation, Matt, if it's okay, you'll tell Matt, you know, he'll write you down. We'll do an awareness walk with each of those groups.
Sarah?
Thank you.
Anything?
No, right.
So look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So public comment, I please stand up. Thank you. I'm gonna, go ahead. No, you were right. Yeah, you were right, Jennifer.
Like I said, it was on Main Street. I just wanted to know, either from Mr. Hill or from the town council, how are you going to publicize this to more people than who are here?
Very good question.
Yeah, we've got the ability to email about 400 residents. We also have text messaging. We'll put it on Facebook. So hopefully some of those mediums, and then once the software is up and running, the Stormboard, I might even go as far as to put that in the post. But my problem is I want to make sure that everybody that responds and plays is an Hancock resident.
And part of the first step would also be an article in the paper to say this is where we're going, and then people can sign up.
I would definitely urge you to maximize this publicity.
Absolutely. Mr. King.
Good evening, my name is Mark Sinclair. First of all, I'd like to thank you for your presentation. I look forward to hearing what you have to say in the coming months. During your presentation, I heard you reference music 8 times. Now, it's a touchy issue here in town, but I'm just curious, in other towns, how do you find that music pavilions do? Are they received well? Do they do well? Are they successful or not?
Well, you know, you probably noticed I was getting a little self-conscious with that as I was going through it, because I did not realize that
That's
truly
interesting.
what you were going through with yours. And so anyway, otherwise I might not have brought you to the same towns, but but I will say that, you know, especially, I'll say, I've worked on about 60 downtowns across Virginia, as close as Parsley, as far west as Cumberland Gap. And in particularly in the, say, the 19 counties west of Roanoke, the Crooked Road is an extraordinary musical vacation. You know, people come from all over the world to go on the Crooked Road, and the HCD and a few others dreamed this up. They said, you know, each of these tiny towns, nobody's going to come from Japan to go to Floyd, or nobody's going to really, you know, but they'll come if they can make it a week, and they've done extraordinarily well. But that tends to be I'll distinguish from just my 45 minutes of knowledge of what's going on here. Those tend to be smaller acoustical, you know, places. The largest one that we worked on the Crooked Road is, well, it's the Blue Ridge Music Center, which is, it's enormous. It has a 5,000 capacity, but most of them are, you know, 500 capacity. And so, but those towns have been able to use that the music trail as a way to replace their dying economies, which were you have the textiles and lumber, and you have the coal, which you even move further west, and so, and you have a tremendous tradition of music there. So those been really, I would say most folks in those places really embrace that music.
Thank you.
David, that sounded like some of them were like jam sessions rather than planned out things, because there's in Chroniqueville, there's right here on the shore, every week there's, what is it?
The chair.
Place. The chair place, and there's just musicians popping in and jamming, so it sounded like this is a lot of what you were talking about. That's what I got out of it. I see another question. Please stand up and identify yourself. Thank you.
Brenda Smith, 12 Market. I have a comment and I have a question. I have to say, a couple months ago, we did spend a weekend in Floyd, had a great time, danced at the country store, and hung out on benches outside.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it was wonderful. We ate at restaurants. It was great. Where on the way home, like, hey, you want to move to Floyd? So it was really good.
Thank you.
Really enjoyable. Then my question is, and I've been puzzled about this for a while when we talk about downtown. Where? I mean, I think the wharf is one end. Where is the other end going towards Route 13? So I don't know if that's a question from Matt or council, but where is that going to?
That doesn't, excuse me, but this is encompassing the whole town, this plan. So the end would be the end of our.
Yeah, we're
our
going,
zone.
this plan will go all the way from Fairgrounds to the wharf and to each side. As far as,
Okay, Fairgrounds Road. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
great,
yeah.
thanks.
So the full town limits.
Yes. Super, okay, thank you.
I didn't know. Anyone else? Please stand.
My name is David Martin. I live on Kerr Street and I work the Eastern Shore Coast. So, the question is, how much is this project costing and who is funding it?
Town manager, would you please?
sure, we put it out, we put an RFP out last year when we did the budget. Council decided they would invest up to $85,000 of the reserves to pay for this project. We put it out to bid. It came back about $20,000 less than that. So basically the town's paying for it, but it's paying for it out of our reserves, not out of operations.
Thank you.
Are you talking about his consulting?
Yes.
Oh,
Please.
not,
That's
oh,
what I-
okay.
Yeah, just his consulting.
I certainly want to get into lighting and parking, there'll be other costs, but this is just for the consultant.
Correct.
Any other questions or comments? Council? I'm sorry, please.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, David, you're certainly invited, if the schedule permits, to use the property at the Historical National School. We have a much bigger room than this. We've got tables, chairs, and whatnot. And it might make a better space for your workshop.
Thank you.
I'll give you contact information.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything, anybody else? Okay, thank you so much for this.
Thank you. I'm sorry I went over my 10 minutes, but I'm really looking forward to working with everybody here.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is to appoint an at-large member to the planning commission. I beg your pardon? You have.
As I'm sure you recall, and Councilmember Berger does also, this council has a policy in place that before appointments are made, we do an interview and resume. And our handbook goes even further and suggests that the person be vetted with a background check. That's the policy in place.
Or recommendations.
We voted on this council to put that policy in place. Many years ago. You were here. I was here. I was here, yeah. The newest members were. And since then, we have been interviewing and asking for resumes.
Okay, so has anyone,
There's
so how,
really one.
okay, I just have a question. Scott, you chairman of the planning commission,
I am.
okay, and was there something that you want to present tonight to do, or someone who has put their thumbs out there for that?
Yes, Brandon was actually gonna make that.
Yep.
So that would be a second council person.
He's gonna do the nominating.
I can say that. Okay, so are you objecting to this process tonight to do
I'm
this?
not objecting to the process. I'm asking that we follow the policy.
Okay,
Last question.
fair enough, you are recognized.
Is that for, I understand that that's for council. I did not realize or was not aware of any implications of that to
Part of this.
to the commissions and other
Yeah. It's-
groups.
Page 25, citizens who have shown an interest in the position, whether it's council, boards, commissions, committees. Need to be vetted. Some background checking of the qualifications may be necessary. And
Okay, but that's not our policy,
that's not, that's the
That's the
recommendation.
recommendation. So policy and procedure, and procedurally, we have not followed that, to my knowledge, ever.
May I suggest that we need people to volunteer. We don't need to make it overly cumbersome to them. We've had one person after us stating that this position is open to step up. And he has been willing to do that. So at this point, I would like to introduce him as to his request.
And I have no objection to that. Does anyone else? Mr. Berger?
No.
All right,
Jake Dillon is the individual that has stepped forward and agreed to fulfill this position. He's a permanent resident in the town. You may recognize him. He's helped out with many community events such as organizing lights on the lawn for the last couple of years, and he's been the organizers, the judges for the parades. If you've seen him in the St. Patrick's Day Parade, he's actually sitting right up in the front row with us.
please stand up, say hey.
Hello, everyone. Happy birthday, Sarah. Cake is delicious. Many happy returns. And if a background check is necessary, I willingly submit.
Jake presented his philosophy for the planning commission, as I believe, supporting thoroughly vetted investments in the town while being cognizant of what makes Hancock charming and maintaining its small town character.
So we don't have 40 other people waiting in line for the job.
We do not, and the
Okay.
planning commission met and took a vote on it, and we have a unanimous vote on him as well.
That sounds good enough for me. Anybody have any objections? Okay. So,
I would move that we would appoint Jake Dillon to the open seat on the planning commission.
vote please. Mr. Berger,
Sure.
aye.
Right.
Cindy?
Did you have a,
Aye.
did you have a second?
Sarah.
Okay, thank you.
Was that the mayor?
Yeah, it was.
Check it out. Okay, so we welcome you to the planning commission.
Thank you.
And,
Congratulations.
and tell me your name again. Jake
Jake
Dillon.
Dillon.
Jake Dillon. council discussion for the budget, the 2024 budget. May I ask you, you take charge here?
Yeah, I can lead the conversation. Back on March 15th, I presented council with a balanced budget for 2024. There was no real estate tax increase. There is no personal property tax increase. There's no change to the lower or upper water prices, which were drastically reduced last year. But the middle tier of our water price, we reduced by 10%. You won't see a full 10% reduction in your bill because HRSD is having an inflationary increase of 6%. So that'll be offset in your water and sewer bill. It gives less than Social Security COLA wage increases to staff who haven't received a market increase in the current year. So if anybody got a current year market adjustment, they do not get a raise in this budget. We did not have any medical insurance premium increases. So really, if you wanted to call this a rollover budget, this is as close as it gets. It's no tax increases, cost of living increases for employees, no real insurance costs increase, no new programs, nothing's reduced. So the council went through and made a list of what we call the wish list item, with the understanding that in a balanced budget, if we have something added, assuming that it's an expense, then we would have to offset it by either reducing another expense or increasing revenue. So that's sort of the question. That's where we left it on the 15th, was we went through all of the wish list, we went through the line item budgets, and at this point, the purpose of this conversation is just really for those folks who walked out of there with questions. We want to be able to answer those as best I can. And then let you know that in next month's council meeting, the normally scheduled council meeting will be the public hearing for the 2024 budget.
All right, any council comments? Is there enough?
In that meeting, we were talking about possibilities to enable the town to subsidize part or all of the second person or family, however many beyond two, for health insurance. And there were some other questions that came out of that. Is there anything further on that, or is it better to wait until April?
Well, we have to declare what insurance plan we're going to offer employees next year.
That's right, that's next week.
We had all kinds of illnesses and trips and things like that, so we weren't able to get everybody together. My recommendation at this point is, because we haven't gotten any kind of a price increase for premiums, that we roll over the current budget as it is today with the same insurance plan. And then as part of the conversations for the budget dollars, if you wanted to add any dollars to match employees' family coverage, then again, we put it in, we have to take it out somewhere. So
stick with the current thing, not do the HSA.
Correct.
Variation.
But then I think next year, I think that we should be looking at under every stone for that. It's a great benefit. We have good insurance. There's no complaints of any kind, but if we were going to change, I just want to be able to do it more thoughtfully with a longer term conversation with the employees.
Councilmember Marina.
I agree with you. But also we said that you were going to pull the employees and they agreed also.
Yeah, we haven't been able to get everybody together because we had folks out sick and things like that last week. So I've been sort of talking with them individually, but that's not really the way I want to do that. I think that, Debbie needs to be able to present to everybody what it would mean and what other options there are. So I just like to take 2024 and do that for next year's budget. It's budget neutral for us this year, unless you all decide that you want to contribute more to family coverage.
Thank you. Cindy, I can't see your hand. Do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you for recognizing me. how long is it sustainable for us to not raise taxes?
Well, I'm not answering that.
It's, I've rarely seen a situation where there wasn't a minimal increase. You know, it's, we seem to be skating close to the edge on the reserves, despite the fact that we do have them. That was part of my question also, which I think I'd sent to you about, you indicated something like an $87,000 kind of, well, it's not a good term, but wiggle room in the reserves if we weren't getting the reimbursements from some of the state agencies in a timely way for some of the grants. If we deplete the reserves further, does that reduce that $87,000 figure?
That's a great question. The $87,000 is what's remaining after the amount of upfront money we have to provide for the Northeast Community Grant, and a couple of the small planning grants. So that $800,000 that we're looking to spend this year, once that grant is finished, we'll have that back as full liquidity. So I'm not sure I'm answering your question, but the 87 is the near-term illiquid reserve number. When we get money back from DHCD to reimburse us for the money for those grants, that'll add to the 87,000. So no, we won't reduce the 87,000 as the grants continue and we spend on them and we're reimbursed. That number increases because I won't have that much more to spend.
Okay, and as a follow-up question, excuse me. Is the, and I think I asked this too, and I hope this isn't an illegal question, is the federal ARPA money, since we have that in hand, is that money that could be transferred into another account temporarily until we got the reimbursement from a state agency? Or not? Or is that totally illegal?
No.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Yeah, we have adequate liquidity to pay for all of the grant activity. The only reason I took that out of the available reserve is because I want to make sure that, you know, when we do sidewalks in the Northeast section and it costs us 400 grand, we can write that check.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Sarah? No.
I met with Matt and we went over it and I understand.
I only have one question, and maybe this is because I've got a blind spot here and I don't know what I'm talking about, but on page 14 of this budget, the use of town reserves, what on the 2023 budget is 192,000 plus, and on the 2024 is 632,000.
Well, the 632 is two different places. One is the first $25,000 up top where it says use of town reserves and government activities.
Yes.
That's what I believe will be left to spend for the town plan. We originally thought it would be 85,000. He's probably not going to finish by June 30th. So I'm saying we probably will have 25,000 rollover. That's what that number is.
Okay.
The 607 town reserves, that comes from two different places. One is, I believe we'll spend about $550,000 of the ARPA money this year. That's in a reserve.
Already in.
And then the other is the 57,500 that council committed to Main Street. And that's going to come out of that reserve as well. So that the combination of those two is where the 6075 comes from.
Okay, thank you. It's stuff we've already agreed to do and money that's been allocated.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the 632 at the bottom is the sum of those.
Correct. That's the 25 and the 607.
And I know you've answered this before and I just don't have it in front of me. What is the deadline that the ARPA funds have to be spent?
We have to encumber them by the end of 2024. We have to expend them completely by the end of 2026.
All right, any other budget questions? Anybody out there got a budget question? Nobody's seen this thing, have you? No, it's terrible. That's what I read. They could. Yeah, if you could see it online. Yeah, okay. Here we go.
We just have one for public comment.
It's public comment time. Do we have a list? Okay,
Just one.
Fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Janet Rochester? You can have as much time as you want. You're the only one on the list.
I'm Janet Rochester, 39 King Street. At the December meeting of the Nancock School, I said that I found the behavior of the Nancock residents group chilling. It is still chilling. I am aware that business owners and others who support the historic Nancock School pavilion are not voicing their opinions publicly because they fear retaliation by the group. After the group's February meeting, my husband was told by one group member that he was brave to attend. Bravery should not be a requirement to attend a meeting of a group of caring neighbors that uses its website to tell others to be kind. Is this how neighbors behave where they came from? The spokesman for the group told us at the last council meeting that their website was being developed for free by someone in Philadelphia. Why is someone in Philadelphia providing free services to a group with a political agenda in Nancock? The website does not identify the owner or a single person associated with the group, maintaining the anonymity of the group. The group does not have an identified treasurer, but they have paid over $3,000 on advertisements in the Eastern Shore Post, plus unknown other expenses, all from donations from supporters of the group. Who is responsible and accountable for this money? They state that they do not need a business license. So what are they? A political action committee? They are accepting donations for a political cause. A private club? They behave like a private club since they do not publicize their meeting. All this secrecy may be perfectly legal, but it takes colossal nerve to talk about the need for transparency. The group has known for 3 months that their secrecy is a concern of residents, and they have done nothing to alleviate it. Some people may think that having an unelected, unappointed, and largely unidentified group trying to influence town policy and politics is good for the town. I do not. I ask that the town's council support the Friends of Nancock School, who for 16 years have successfully and responsibly maintained this important town property.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Nobody else.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask. May I? Okay. The committee reports. Cindy, have you a personnel committee report?
Yes, the Personnel Committee did meet in March. We finished reviewing the personnel policies, and Matt is now completing the final draft to bring to the full council. I did want to let you know that the Personnel Committee will not meet in April, since really we don't have anything we can accomplish until town council has reviewed the policies. And that's it.
Thank you. Planning Commission, Brandon?
Yes, we met on the 6th and discussed the sign ordinance and changes to that. That is being brought forward. But due to everything going on, isn't enough time to put that into the agenda this month. So that'll be, from my understanding, on next month's agenda. We also are discussing residential zoning in terms of the verbiage, which would classify the types of building, such as manufactured, modular, stick built, those types of terms, and what those are to better clarify that in our zoning.
Thank you. That's it.
That's it, other than, meeting and discussing Jake Dillon and
Okay,
voting on that.
waterfront, Mr. Mayor.
The waterfront, Matt, did we have a meeting? We didn't have,
Yes, we did.
oh, I'm sorry, that's right, we did, I'm sorry, I was, I didn't know if it was last month or this month. Yeah, we had a meeting, of course, you know about the harbor master resigning. And Matt can tell you more about trying to fill that position. Matt, you know,
Yeah, if you want, I mean, the advertisement's going in 3 consecutive weeks in the post. We've gotten 1 resume. I'm gonna reach out to the person because it's a person who's probably overqualified, but if they mean it, you know, I'm not afraid of that. So, but we're opening the building now. And we've got a good gaggle of teenagers that were ready for this season. So we just need to have a couple of college age students and then obviously somebody at the helm.
When is it open officially?
Officially, it's April 1st, but I think we're going to push that to April 15th, and then we'll do fuel appointments. So we'll be able to keep people serviced without.
Any comments? The mayor's report?
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, Jen and I are in Boston at the National Main Street Conference, and unfortunately, I'm sorry I can't be there, but it conflicted with that, and we're here for the next 3 days. It's so far been very informative. It's good to see what other small towns are doing. I'm sorry, I had some connectivity problems in the first 20-30 minutes of the meeting, but I think you got through it fine. I'd like to say thank you to David Hill for coming this far to talk to us. I stopped by his office in Roanoke last month and had a little conversation and saw his operation. I was extremely impressed. I think we're going to do. It's going to benefit the town greatly with that. The other discussion I had is, as I brought this up with the budget cycle last time, is the is looking at the school. About possibly I talked to several people about looking at what the needs of the school are, and I was going to ask council if they would authorize Matt to look since we already have some engineers on staff that are working on the Chandler building, to see if he could get some numbers for us, if we would be interested in getting a survey of what needs at the school in terms of the roof and the electrical. Just get some numbers, and we don't have to commit to anything, but see what if council's interested in pursuing that, to see for ourselves what needs to be done, and we would we'll pay for that. So that's my idea. I don't have any idea what that would cost. I had some discussions with Matt earlier. So that's I mean, you don't need to have a vote on that to get some numbers, but that's just my idea if we want to pursue that. That's all I have.
I'm not hearing clearly. Are you saying you don't have an idea what numbers you want to put forward for that?
Well, I think we talked about, what are the needs of the school if we're interested in at some point in helping them, borrow the money possibly to put a new roof on, or a new heating or cooling system. What is that going to, what's that going to take? So it would be nice to find out how much a study of, just to get an engineer to go in there and look and see what kind of roof they need, that kind of thing. Basically a home inspection of the school, I don't know what, and to get some ideas about how much that would cost before we, committed to anything.
Right, but you're not talking about putting anything into this upcoming budget.
Yeah, I mean, if we get some numbers before that, yeah, maybe. I'm hoping it's not going to be large amounts of money, but I don't know. I can't say, but I think we need to. I think we have a lot of issues with the school. We've talked about that. People have said, look, let's see if we can help them in other ways, to lessen the impact of the pavilion. That's just my idea. I think Matt can come up with some numbers fairly quickly, and see. I'm hoping we're not looking at, we're looking at 10 or 15,000. I'm guessing. I have no idea. Yeah.
Let me find out if the engineers that are going to do the work for us at Market Street can give me a number to do that type of an assessment.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking. for, yeah, just to get some numbers. And if it's, if it's $100,000, that's a different conversation. Yeah. So, yeah, that does give us a starting point, and we can get, if we get it this year's budget, so be it.
Right, all that together at that time. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The town manager's report.
Well, it's obviously in writing inside your packet. Some of the highlights are tonight, the HRSD commission, which is their board, is meeting to approve the project costs for our Jefferson Road sewer laterals in Maine. So that once they approve that, they move pretty quickly. So I would think that work could begin as early as the middle of May. So that would be nice, but the street work that's over on Marshall Street for those 3 new homes has been substantially completed. The person who's going to come in and grade it and put the crushed concrete in will be doing that at the end of this week. So that project will be done. The IRF, which is the Industrial Revitalization Fund, right now we're going through contract negotiations with both DHCD and with the developer. That's that $1 million grant that we got to the revolving loan fund. So we're going through and setting terms. Once those terms are done and we sign off on the contract, that's when they can begin to get reimbursed for that project. So that one's important because they are going to start to do some work. And then you all knew that we got, or I let you know at the last meeting, that we were notified that that Department of Criminal Justice awarded ARPA funds to the town's police department of $211,000. That 211 will be used to, in all likelihood, for a generator for the police department and also the security cameras that we're putting around town. Also some other sort of sidearm equipment that they just need. So that 211, then, so we get that 195 of ARPA money that we'll be able to reappropriate to other projects. In all likelihood, that would be the construction of the Welcome Center restrooms, and then the renovation of the police department. So it looks like that might help us in that way as well. Any questions?
I have one.
Yeah.
Sarah? On. I can't find it. About a third of the way down the second page of your report, the Northeast Park.
Yeah.
You said that the representatives of the community have 2 choices to consider for equipment there. What's the process and the timing and the
Well, I
expectation?
touched base with Miss Gillespie on the way in, and she said they didn't like the parks that I presented to them.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go back with, she gave me a much more specific idea of what she was looking for.
Okay.
I'm gonna go back and go shopping and
try that.
I'll be back. Because
Okay.
yeah, even though we reappropriated some additional funds for that project, in all likelihood, that won't cover it. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the town manager? Okay.
Just Cindy had sent some in writing and not replied, but is there any, I wonder if there's any follow-up?
Are you asking me if I had more questions, Sarah? No, I was satisfied. I understood what he was saying. Thank you.
Okay. The financial report.
I normally don't give a financial report, but it's in here and just honestly, the summary for the year so far, we're doing quite well. One of the reasons that we're doing well is that we're still able to bill for our sewer system, but the closing on that is looking more and more imminent. That we've got 6 pump stations that need to be able to close in order for us to transfer over the collection system. But just to give you an idea, Thursday, we've got a meeting with the billing department about how transitioning over to their billing is coming. So it is moving along, and that's why I didn't budget for anything for next year for the sewer. But that's the main reason. I think in total, We're 67% through the year. We're 73% of our revenue, so we're higher than year-to-date appropriations for revenue, and we're 60% of the budgeted dollars. And here again, we're at 67% through the year, so we're less than the percentage of the year in expenditures and higher than appropriated part of the year, prorated part of the year for revenues. So all in all, the town's in great shape, and our cash position year over year is in excellent condition. So
Council comment, Mr. Berger?
I do not have a comment.
Mr. Berger has no comment. Ms. Marino?
First of all, I want to thank everybody that worked on the parade, the St. Patrick's Day parade. I thought it was phenomenal, especially Jeff Benham, who chaired it, and all the volunteers and the town staff. I know that you put in many hours and it showed. It was very nice. And I'm thrilled that the Samuel Outlaw building is now listed on, what is it?
well, we were, let's see now. We put an application with the state to have them recommend us to be listed on the federal reserve or national registry for historic places. And we made it through that process. Now we've got one more hurdle to climb, but it's a really interesting story that it's one of the very, very few, if only, African-American blacksmith shops in the country that still has some of its operating tools. So
Yes.
yeah, and being on the federal registry that'd be quite a cool.
Yeah, we thank you for that work, and I know Mr. Strand here has worked on that, and Mr. Boyd.
Oh, yeah.
Earl Boyd have been leading it, so thank you. That's a plus for the town.
That's it. Thank you. Sarah?
Just an update on the facade grant. The deadline for applications was Saturday, a week ago. The committee met last week and went through the applications that we have received. We're collecting our responses. There were some that we need to get additional information from. And we'll be sending those out well within the 30-day window that we have specified.
Do you,
Hold one second. What?
I wanted to ask about the facade. How many applications have you had, and has it used, you don't know yet if you've used the.
There were 19 complete applications. There was one that was partial, and we're trying to get the rest of the information for that one. And depending on how a couple of things shake out, it looks likely that we will spend the whole $85,000 on this first round.
Good job. Thank you.
Somewhere I read it was 90,000.
I'm sorry.
Because I-
Yeah, you're right. It is 90. It was something else. It was 85. It's 90,000.
Brendan.
Happy birthday. Thank you for spending your birthday with the town. Pleased to hear that Hill is here and look forward to working with them. And thank you, Jake, for stepping up and being willing to serve. Planning commission meetings usually aren't this long, so.
Thanks for the opportunity. I look forward to it.
I'm always saying Brendan is Brandon, isn't it?
It's Brandon.
It's Brandon. I beg your pardon. I hate it when somebody calls it Davis. All right.
Mavis, is it my turn?
No, it's mine.
I'm sorry. Okay.
No, my only question was going to be the same thing that you asked, how many applications you got for that grant. So, and we're fine. Go ahead, Cindy.
Thank you. I wanted to give an update on the mural project of Anacog Main Street. The muralist, Seth Louboutin from Virginia Beach, will begin around April 11th. Of course, all of this depends largely on weather, but that's the planned start date. The first mural will be on the, it's actually 9 Market Street, but it's the rear of that building. It's the one owned by Mary and Elon Benaknan, if I'm saying that correctly.
North Street.
Is it?
9
North Street, yes. Yes, you're right. Thanks, Fletcher. Whoa, wrong place, huh? Anyway, he's going to start, and the theme of this one is the natural environment and kind of appreciating the nature of the lovely place that we live in. And I know that's important to all of us. But I did want to let you know that one is starting soon, and we will have a community event where people can come and talk to the muralist and ask questions. And he also encourages people to stop by when he's working. So that's that report. And I also want to wish Sarah a happy birthday.
And we wish you get well.
Thank you.
All right, only me left to comment, and I just want to thank everybody for showing up tonight, and please pass the word and keep coming, because things happen when nobody's looking. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved and so second, and motion, we are now adjourned.
Sure.